The water is...
Why your nails go so fast? Must be all that jello they give you. Jello, jello, day after day. Red jello, yellow jello, every day jello.
Hurry up, you don't want to miss the laundry truck.
I forgot to tell you, Mrs. Cooper passed away. Remember her? She was nice. Always a kind word. Her dog I could have done without.
Excuse me.
Hello.
Does he ever speak to you?
Of course not. Not in words.
He speaks to you in other ways? How do you mean?
You don't have children.
No.
If you did, you would know.
This is atypical schizophrenia.
Atypical hysteria, this one.
Atypical nerve impairment.
No change since last examination.
No change or therapy recommended. Very nice.
This one is no change, dated 9/11/44. Sorry.
That's 25 years. You'd think at a certain point all these atypical somethings would amount to a typical something. But a typical what?
Doctor?
Yes.
You want to go for a cup of coffee somewhere or something? Tea?
Oh, normally I would say yes. I made other plans.
Right. Well, some other time.
Oh, yes.
Right. I'm over here.
I'm right there.
Good night.
Night. Cephalitis lethargica. Where is it? Cephalitis lethargica.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor. I thought someone left the lights on.
I found it. I found the connection. They all survived encephalitis years before they came here. See, in the 1920s.
That's very nice.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes. I'll come back later.
Please.
How many have you found there?
5, and I believe there are more.
How are they?
Just as you described them back then. Insubstantial as ghosts. Only, I guess, many of them were children then.
Yes. Children who fell asleep. Most died during the acute stage of the illness. Those who survived were awoke, seemed fine, as though nothing had happened. We just didn't realize how much the infection had damaged the brain. And years went by, 5, 10, 15, before these strange neurological symptoms would appear. But they did. I began to see them in the early 1930s. Old people brought in by their children. Young people brought in by their parents. They could no longer dress themselves or feed themselves. They could no longer speak in most cases. So families went mad. People who were normal were now elsewhere.
What's it like to be them? What are they thinking?
They're not. The virus didn't spare their higher faculties.
We know that for a fact.
Yes.
Because?
Because the alternative is unthinkable.
I'm all for fixing this place up, but what are we doing?
I have a hunch.
Oh, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
What's been stopping Lucy from crossing to the fountain?
Nothing.
Exactly. The visual field just stops. There's a void. There's no pattern, no visual rhythm. Nothing to compel her to keep going.
So we're making something.
Exactly.
All right, Lucy. She's looking out the...
Where is it? This is the right issue. Last year's. I can't find it.
I'd like to know more about your son.
Certainly. Something was wrong, they said, with his hands. He couldn't write anymore. He couldn't do the work. I should take him out of school, they said. He was 11. Slowly he got worse. He'd call me and I'd come in, and he'd be sitting at his desk in a trance. 1 hour, 2 hours, then he'd be okay again. One day I came home from work, found him in his bed. He kept saying, "Ma, Ma." His arm like this, reaching. "What do you want, Leonard?" He never spoke again. It was like he disappeared. Later, that year, I took him to Bainbridge. It was November 14th, 1939. He was 20 years old.
What did he do for those 9 years he was staying in this room, Mrs. Lowe?